Somebody recently asked me if you have to be good at drawing to paint watercolor landscapes. And to that, I would say no if you know how to work with perspective. If you're new here, my name is Emily Winslow, and I'm a watercolor artist who loves to spread the joy of art to others. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to paint an easy watercolor landscape with minimal drawing. Let's go ahead and grab our paintbrushes and get started. Okay, let's go over what materials we're going to be using in today's painting. So I'm going to start with my Winslow and Newton watercolor kit. You can find this on Amazon. I have it linked in my bio. And then we just have our watercolor paper, 2 paintbrushes. I like to have a size 12 and a size 8, and of course our water. You can find all these materials in that link in my description. So like I said, we are going to do very minimal drawing here. I'm just going to show you how to achieve a really simple landscape. So I always like to just identify where my horizon line is going to be, and I'm just going to make that a little bit lower than half of our paper here, and just draw a straight line across. Now here's one of the tricks that I use when I want to really show some perspective with my landscapes. I'm just going to pick a point maybe off to the right here, and I'm going to start making some diagonal lines that start to get wider as we come closer to the foreground. And this will really help our landscape look 3D-ish. And I want to have the front here maybe have just a couple maybe flowers, so I'm just drawing some rough ovals here. So nothing too crazy with our drawing. Lastly, I'm going to just sketch out a little bit of our tree line. So I want to be very chaotic with this. I'm not making a straight line. I'm just kind of going up and down for the trees because we want it to have variation in the way that it looks. So just as simple as that, we're going to leave it right here and get started on our painting. So I'm going to grab my bigger brush here. So I usually like to start with the sky, and we're just going to do a simple blue sky here. So just grab whatever blue paint you have, and you don't have to use the exact kit that I am using in today's video. In some of my other videos, I show a Praying Oval 16 kit. It's a very great affordable kit for beginners, so if you have that, go ahead and just use whatever blue that comes with. And I'm going to dip my paintbrush in the water to kind of clean it off a bit. And we're going to go over this entire area with our wet brush. That way when we add in the blue that we just mixed up, we can have it blend really well. So go ahead and grab that blue, and we're going to start from the top here and just start letting that blend down. So I'm doing this video because I asked on my Instagram if there were any questions anyone had that I could address in my YouTube videos, and one of the questions somebody submitted was, do you have to be good at drawing to paint landscapes well? And I think achieving a beautiful, simple landscape is really doable for anyone, so that's what I'm hoping to show you in today's video, that you don't have to be a master at drawing. Now, if you want to do more architectural type paintings, that might take a little bit more drawing skill, but I think anyone can just paint a beautiful landscape. So see how the paint is just blending really well because we have a wet surface. And if you need to continue adding water on top to just add any more to just help it blend better, you are welcome to do that. I always try to be a little bit careful with the amount of water I'm adding, because there can be a point where you add a little bit too much. And I'm going to go ahead and take like a pinkish color, so I'm going to have white, a little bit of red, maybe more of a purplish color. And I'm just going to add that a little bit at the base of our clouds here. I always think it just adds a nice definition to the clouds. So look a little bit more 3D. Just blend that in very lightly. We don't want that purple color to be too stark. Just enough to show that it's a little bit of a different color from our blue. Let's go ahead and move on to our foreground here. So for this field back here, I'm gonna start with a really light green. And as I always say in a lot of my tutorials, I like to start really light with my colors It's just a lot easier to add on darker colors over rather than taking away color. So we're just going to spread a nice light green all across our painting here, and I'm kind of following those lines that we sketched out a little bit. Doesn't have to be exact, just enough to have those diagonal lines in there. And see how it's really starting to take shape of, you can see that back here is further away from you because the lines are leading up to it. So it looks like it's further away, and then as the lines come up, it looks like that's closer. Keep adding in some darker greens. I always like to stick to kind of more of a muted palette, so I add a lot of white into my paintings to kind of achieve that, or have more watered down colors, but you can, make it more vibrant if you'd like. I'm going to start adding in some browns here. Maybe a little bit of yellow, just for some color variation. We're just taking a little bit of this color, and we're just gonna add this in, kind of just to make it look like it's kind of a farm field back here. What I was going for. I love to paint farms. I don't know. I live in Indiana, so I just see a lot around where I live. Wherever I drive on some of the highways, I'll pass all the farms, and just something quiet and simple about them, and I like to paint them. Okay, I'm just continuing following our lines here. I'm going to add a little bit. I want to add a little bit more green to this side. You can always pause the video if you need to catch up on some parts, or fast forward if you are a faster painter than me. I'm going to take some black and add that in, maybe even a little bit of like purple. Oops, that's a little bit too much. I like adding purple into my shadows. Just tapping in the dark color for painting. I don't want these lines to just be like too stark, so I'm kind of making a dotting motion, leaving some parts lighter than others. And it just helps make it look a little bit more natural. I'm going to take my green again. I think I made this one a little bit too blurry here, and I didn't really like that. So I'm going to add in some darker greens to add that definition back. So if you kind of mess up an area, that's okay. Continue layering, and that usually helps. I always say, when in doubt, just keep layering. Sometimes that doesn't help because again, like I said, there's a point like with watercolor where you can just overwork the painting, and I've done that and had to throw it away, which is okay. When I first started watercolor, I think I've talked about this a few times in videos, but I did not like this medium. It is hard to work with just because the paint has a mind of its own a little bit. And it took me, a couple of years, but I fell in love with it, and I just love the serene and lightness of it. So, okay, I'm gonna go in this foreground area and add just a few. I'm actually gonna go in with my light green, and this is gonna be a grass area with a couple flowers, so I'm keeping the bottom part green, but then leaving a few kind of white circles that I'm gonna put some like red flowers in there. So if you want, you don't have to add flowers, you can just do the whole area green. I just thought some flowers will add a little bit of beauty to this. So I'm just again adding in some darker colors at the bottom, and once this dries a little bit, I'm actually gonna take a thin brush and add a little bit of stems. That'll help define our flowers a little bit. Now, while the green is still wet, I'm gonna go ahead and add in my flower color because I kind of want it to blend with the green so that it looks a little bit more loose. So I'm mixing up some red. I want it to be kind of a muted red here, and then I'll go in with a darker color underneath. Just add in that color wherever you wanted your flowers. Just letting it blend a little bit, and we'll go back and clean it up a bit. I just wanted to get the color in to bleed. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and leave that just like that for a moment and go work on the tree line, and then we'll come back to this area. So I'm gonna take again, I'm gonna do more of like a cooler tone green. So I'm taking blue. As you can see, my palette gets really messy and I just start to mix everything. So I want a cooler tone green, which means I'm gonna add in some blue and white. And I'm gonna go over like this entire tree line area. Just add in that color. I wanted it to have a variation from the kind of green that we used for our foreground here. So the foreground green is a little bit more warm, and this one's got those blues mixed in. Sometimes I'll add in reds to my greens to make it look like the sun is shining through. If you add blues, it kind of maybe looks like it's at dusk, the sun is starting to set. Okay, I'm gonna actually grab my thinner brush here, and I'm just gonna start adding in some of those darker tones to our tree line. So I'm grabbing a black and a dark blue and green. Make sure we keep our green in there. And then let's go ahead and just keep the darker color towards the horizon line. So just slowly adding that in. I want to be kind of sporadic with where I put this. I'm going to go on the left side of some of the trees here. Kind of leave some space, a little bit lighter maybe below. See here, it's like a little bit lighter up here and then a little bit lighter down here. Going at this a little bit randomly. But see, this is why I feel like anyone can do it. You don't need a very rigid drawing to do this, because it doesn't really matter too much where the paint goes here. As long as you have a general direction of, you know, keeping the paint near the horizon line on this tree line, keeping it to the left of some of the trees, you know, just don't think that you have to be too fearful with your paintbrush and, you know, just put the paint down. I think that was kind of one of the things that really stressed me out when I first started watercolor. Is I was like afraid to put my paintbrush down, because once you put paint down on watercolor, it's really hard to take off. But at some point you just have to be confident and let it go. Okay, I think the tree line looks good. I really like those dark blues, and I'm actually going to add some into our little landscape here. So I'm just gonna lightly add that into like the bottoms of like these areas here, if that makes sense. Like I'm sticking to the line area. I think it just adds a little bit more definition here. Again, we don't want these lines to be too straight. Just giving it a little bit extra. You can use your finger to kind of like tap at it if you think you made your line a little too straight. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and add some more greens to our flower area. And basically, I'm just gonna add some darker tones. I've got my dark green here, and I want to put that kind of underneath some of the flowers to define them a little bit more. So I'm kind of splitting up this whole area of reds and kind of making them look like their own individual flower here. Just going around. I'm going to take the tip of my brush and kind of go upwards to make a few stems here. Like that. And just keep adding those darker greens, and I'm going to add just some like dots to make it look like leaves. Maybe even like a long stem up this way. Actually, I didn't really like that. Kind of dotting it away. And over here, defining these little flowers. Kind of staying lighter on this side. Okay, now I'm going to go in with a darker red again to add a little bit of definition to our flowers. Okay, and I'm going to add in some black in there. So we're going to put this like at the bottom of our flowers. That makes sense. So we want to leave some of the lighter pinkish red color still there. But we want to add these shadows. And I keep dipping my brush in the water because I want to have different variations. I don't want it to be too stark here, so you can kind of wash your brush if you need. Get rid of some of that dark paint. And I'm happy with how our simple landscape looks, so let's go ahead and reveal our painting. Just gonna tear these off lightly. One of my favorite parts about the end of a painting is to reveal nice sharp lines. And here is our simple landscape painting. I hope this video helped you successfully paint a watercolor landscape. If you have any questions on this, please let me know in the comments below, or let me know what you want to learn how to paint next. And as always, you can find me on social media at Watercolor with Emily. I'd love to hear from you. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel to continue learning watercolor with me. Until we paint again.